Relationships are hard. I'm sure adding in the daily grind of a superhero or supervillain lifestyle does not make that easier. I'm Adam Andrews, and today on Top 10 Nerd, it's the 10 DC relationships that failed miserably. Kicking off at number 10, it's Donna Troy and Terry Long. As the mirror duplicate sister of the Wonder Woman, Donna Troy was admired by many of her male teammates and a few teenage civilians to boot. So the question of why the 19-year-old actually married a 29-year-old divorced college professor is one that may never have a satisfying answer. The fact that he was divorced and 10 years older than her can be passable, I guess, but then we add on the fact that he was a complete creep with a perm who would flirt with not only the other female titans, but even his own students, and it just makes it ever so worse. Even with all that though, Terry still ended up with full custody of their kid after filing a restraining order and claiming Donna was too dangerous to be their kid's mom. At least she wasn't the one who complained about not getting help to write a paper because her partner was fighting demons and aliens. Number 9. Kyle Rayner and Alex DeWitt. This isn't so much a failed relationship as it is a completely wasted one. Green Lantern Kyle Rayner came home one day after a long day of superheroing in Green Lantern issue number 54 from 1994 to find his then girlfriend, photojournalist Alexandra DeWitt, had been very savagely stripped of her life at the hands of the villain known as Major Force. But not only did Major Force take Alexandra's life, for seemingly no reason, he also stuffed her into the couple's shared fridge. It was incredibly brutal, and in terms of storytelling, it only served to give Kyle, the male antagonist of the story, the motivation to reach new heights as a hero. Meanwhile, her character, who was genuinely likable and had enough going on in the comic to stand on her own, was gone forever. This act of removing female love interests to spur on male protagonists was a trope in not only comics, but media in general, which practically never happened in the reverse. After this comic came out though, the trope was finally given a name, fridging, or women in refrigerators, and it changed the way female characters were written in comics for the most part, so I guess there is kind of a silver lining to this story. Number 8. Nightwing and Tarantula. Dick Grayson, being the former ward of a guy who has notoriously bad relationships, follows suit with most of his relationships ending in some undeserved heartbreak and some serious PTSD. Take Tarantula for example. Tarantula was a villain who was trying to reform as a vigilante like Nightwing. But unfortunately, Tarantula was far too toxic. She enjoyed being a villain way too much and usually ignored everything Nightwing taught her. Well, in Nightwing 1996 number 93 from 2004, after a slog of a fight that moved out onto a fire escape, Nightwing had the Bloodhaven villain Blockbuster on the ropes when Tarantula showed up. Shocking everyone, Nightwing leaves his morals at the door, realizing Blockbuster will never stop and that his girlfriend is not reforming. He steps aside to allow Tarantula to end the villain's life. He then has a complete panic attack, and she took that as the go-ahead to keep him down with substances and then get it on. Needless to say, they did not stay together for very long after that, but they did stay together, and that's weird. Number 7. Batman and Catwoman. The wedding of Batman and Catwoman was a big freaking deal. It was teased at and built up for a long time. Fans were genuinely excited to see it happen and to see what could come next after the fact. Like a kid of Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne. That would be awesome. But sadly, the wedding that was so coveted never came to be. Batman issue 50 came and went, and following suit, so did Catwoman. Came and went from Bruce Wayne's life, literally leaving the groom at the altar. Batman was marrying Catwoman so he could literally just be happy. And after some convincing words from criminals like the Joker and her friend Holly, Catwoman believed that if Bruce Wayne was happy, then Batman couldn't exist. Which, 1, that is depressing, but 2, both the Joker and Holly, alongside Riddler, Gotham Girl, Flashpoint, Thomas Wayne Batman, and other villains, were working for Bane, who was manipulating events in order to break Batman emotionally and give rise to the City of Bane event. Well, it certainly sent Batman down a path of absolute despair. He became much more drastic with his fighting of criminals, particularly an innocent Mr. Freeze, and he even donned a less advanced version of his Batsuit so that he would take more of a beating. Number 6. Deathstroke and Terra. Deathstroke has committed more than his fair share of bad deeds over the years, but one of the worst crimes he's committed has to be his romance with the teenage superhero Terra. The Judas Contract is one of the most iconic Teen Titans and Deathstroke storylines, where readers learn that Terra was not only a villain sent to spy on the heroes, but was also dating and having intimate interactions with the Titans' arch-enemy, Deathstroke. All of us know that this relationship was actually a full-grown adult using someone far too young for his own villainous intentions. Yet, writer Marv Wolfman has explained his intention to reveal Terra as the true villain and the one in control of the relationship. But we aren't going to pretend that that's acceptable. Terra, being brainwashed, dismantled the team from the inside out, and it completely wrecked the Titans. She and Deathstroke were eventually foiled by intervention from Deathstroke's son, Jericho, and Dick Grayson in his first outing as Nightwing, with Terra passing away at the story's conclusion, having brought down a building around herself in a blind rampage. DC chose to retcon this relationship in order to dissolve the creepy factor, which was definitely a smart move, but it's still uncomfortable nonetheless. Number 5. Batman and Talia al Ghul. While Batman and Catwoman not staying together breaks my little achy breaky heart, it's Bruce Wayne's relationship with Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, that really takes the cake for one of his worst. Bruce and Talia acted as if they were truly in love with one another, yet nothing seemed to be genuinely that way. All Talia cared about was fulfilling her father's quest for conquering the Earth, and with some rather extreme methods. That was never going to mesh well with a superhero like Batman. While that doomed the relationship from the start, the real horrible failure of the ship came later. In order to have a mega awesome child, Talia put the Caped Crusader in a compromisable position with the use of some substances. She then proceeded to take advantage of the semi-unconscious Bruce Wayne to become pregnant. Maybe the worst part here is that she birthed the child, Damian Wayne, in secret, then polluted Damian's mind with murderous tendencies and a superiority complex, and then Talia dumped the little assassin on an unsuspecting Batman's doorstep, completely throwing Bruce's life into chaos and madness. There are different versions of this tale where Bruce may have been in full possession of his faculties, but it is shown otherwise in Batman Volume 1, number 565. Number 4. Adam and Jean Loring. Once upon a time, the Justice League superhero known as the Atom had a pretty great wife, Jean Loring. Jean and Ray have been involved before Ray was ever even a superhero, so unlike a lot of other superhero-civilian relationships, they were into each other without there being some kind of weird power dynamic. Unfortunately, when Ray became a hero, things began to fall off a little bit more. Jean fell in love with Ray, but she struggled to get on board with the fact that now her life was always in danger by association, and she was constantly put in danger. It is very true. The relationship struggled because of this, and they both each had their own little entanglements. On the plus side, her cheating gave us the Sword of the Atom story, which made a lot of people fall in love with the character of the Atom. But she still cheated. He's not innocent either though. The rest of the story saw the Atom going and finding a tiny little micro-civilization in the jungle, and then he had his entanglement with their little micro-princess. Then, later on, Jean becomes some crazy powerful villain, and it's nuts. Number 3. Nightwing and Starfire. This is probably the worst of the bunch, not only because it breaks up a long-beloved relationship between Nightwing and his Teen Titans teammate, Starfire, but also because the writers of the comics retcon things about multiple characters' histories that either made no sense or completely ruined the integrity of those characters. After deciding that Barbara Gordon is the perfect fit for Nightwing over Starfire, the beginning pages of Nightwing Annual No. 2 in 2007 gave us Nightwing confessing how absolutely madly in love he is with Barbara Gordon. The story then goes on to retcon their entire history, stating that they have been in love since the days when they were Batgirl and Robin, despite their weird age difference. And then, if that weren't weird enough, the book turns Dick Grayson into a cheater. Dick shows up the night before he's supposed to marry Starfire and spends the night with Babs. So he cheats on Corey, then Dick also gives Babs an invitation to his wedding after just spending the night with her, and she wasn't even aware that Dick was still planning to get married in the first place. It's messed up. Number 2. David Cain and Lady Shiva. This one barely even counts as a relationship. David Cain was one of the mentors that turned Bruce Wayne into Batman, but he didn't want that to be his legacy. Cain decided that he needs to have a child who manages to outdo Batman's training, and he needed the perfect mate to do it with. Sandra Wu-san is one of the deadliest martial artists in the world. As a kid, Sandra and her sister Carolyn trained with each other, creating a unique martial art that they mastered and would display in spars with each other, which unfortunately gained the attention of David Cain. Sandra always held back against her sister, and in order to unlock her true potential, David removed Carolyn from the equation and told Sandra that he would do the same to her unless she has his child. And she agreed. This did allow Sandra to unlock her true potential and to become a martial artist with almost no rival except for her own daughter, Cassandra, but that's because David, being a total sociopath, takes Cassandra the moment she was born for training. Sandra goes understandably nuts and becomes Lady Shiva, an assassin, and the two did not maintain a loving mother-father relationship after that. Number 1. Aviax and the Dinosaur. Alright, buckle up. The Wanderers are a less known group of DC space heroes from the 30th century who, in issue 12 of their first series, get called to check out a planet very similar to Earth, where the dinosaurs are dying off at a faster rate than expected thanks to a gas that was unleashed on the planet. Now, one of the members of the team, Aviax, has the ability to turn into any bird he wants, and he discovers that the reason so many dinosaurs are dying off is because the radioactive gas features a type of radiation that they have not yet evolved to be able to survive. Well, this genius comes up with an extraordinary plan. Since dinosaurs are the precursor to birds, Aviax finds that he can turn into a slightly more evolved version of one species of dinosaur. So he does, finds a good-looking dino mate, pins her down, and then, well, there's no light way to say it, he bangs a dinosaur. While Aviax did stay the night, he still ends up sneaking out on the sleeping dino the next morning. Aviax had zero qualms about seducing a dinosaur and was even excited to go back and tell his Wanderer buds all about it. The poor dinosaur, on the other hand, got left with a baby and a broken heart. And that's all she wrote. Thank you so much for watching here on Top 10 Nerd. I'm Adam Andrews. I'll catch you all on the flippy flop. Peace out, nerds!